Close enough? Okay. I'd like to call this meeting of the Montgomery City Council to order. It is October 11th, 2022, and now it's exactly 6 o'clock according to my computer. Thank you for tuning in from the outside. Thank you for those that attend here physically. We appreciate you taking an interest in our city. We do have a quorum present. All members are present except Brother T.J. Wilkerson. And we appreciate continued prayers for his complete healing. We'd like to ask that everyone silence their cell phones to avoid any interruption of our meeting. And at this time, we'll rise for the invocation given by Ms. Pat Beasley.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we know that you are sovereign in all things, and we thank you, Father, for the peace and the grace that you've shown this city. Now, Lord, be with this council. Grant us wisdom and understanding that we may advance the business of this city. Lord, we thank you for these and all things. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Salute to the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Visitor Citizens Forum. There are no people signed up to speak this evening. And so we will go to the consent agenda. Items 1 and 2. Item 1, consideration and approval of the minutes of the following. A, regular council and public hearing, September 13th, 2022. B, regular council meeting, September 27th, 2022. And C, special council meeting, October 3rd, 2022. Item 2, consideration and acceptance of a 0.1195 acre public sanitary sewer easement agreement. What's the council's pleasure? You want to take both together or separate?
And on the minutes, September the 13th, there has been a change after I reviewed the video to item 10 on September 13th. Councilmember Beasley voted against, so the vote should be recorded as 4-1.
Okay. Any questions from the council on that? Okay. With that change, we can go ahead and still...
You can still make it, yeah, you just say, because you have the correct version to sign this evening. You
Okay.
just make the motion with the correction as stated.
Okay. Someone like to make the motion for items 1 and 2 with correction made to item 1A.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda of items 1 and 2 with the
Change to item 1A.
yeah, the corrections to item 1A.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion and then we have a second. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 1 and 2 with item 1A modifications, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. And we do approve the consent agenda items 1 and 2 as stated. Item number 3, calling a public hearing on the voluntary annexation of 79.910 acres of land located in the Owen Shannon Survey, A-36 in Montgomery County, Texas, also known as the Pulte 80-acre tract.
Mayor and Council, you will recall the development agreement that was approved by Council back on September 13th for this. One of the steps in annexation is to hold a public hearing. Just as a reminder, the only way that any city in Texas, but it's always been for a type A general law city like ours, less than 5,000 population, the only way that we can annex is through voluntary annexation, and that's one of the terms of the agreement. In order to do that, we need to hold a public hearing and then take action on an annexation ordinance. And so the action for tonight is simply to call the public hearing for October 25th at 6 p.m.
So entertain a motion to
Call for it then.
call the public hearing as stated in the recommendation box.
Make a motion to call the public hearing for October 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. for the voluntary annexation of the Pulte 80-acre tract.
Motion by
second.
Casey. Do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Second to Carol. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. All in favor of approving a public hearing for October 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on the voluntary annexation of Pulte 80-acre tract, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion carries as stated. Item number 4, calling a public hearing on the voluntary annexation of 33.012 acres of land located in the John Corner Survey A-8 in Montgomery County, Texas, also known as the HCR Ventures Limited 33-acre tract.
Mayor and council, this is a very similar item. We're just on a different property. This is the one on Stewart Creek Road that was approved on September 27th.
Same type of motion with the recommendation.
I'll make the motion to hold the public hearing for October the 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on the voluntary annexation of the HCR Ventures LTD tract.
A motion by Carol, do I have a second?
I second.
I'll take Cheryl's as a second. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving the recommendation for item 4 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And item number 4 carries as stated. Item number 5, consideration and possible action on appointment of Planning and Zoning Commission places 2 and 4.
Mayor and council, as you see in your packet, the Planning and Zoning Commission serves 2-year terms that are staggered in a similar way to city councils. So in an even year, that means that places 2 and 4 are up for appointment or reappointment. Both Miriam Walker, who serves in place 4, and she's here tonight, I'd like to hear from. Bill Simpson serves in place 2. And both have expressed a willingness to continue to serve. We can go out for appointments, but again, there is a learning curve that comes with P&Z in terms of trying to learn what the P&Z does, what it's about. So my recommendation is to reappoint both Bill and Mary to places 2 and 4.
I certainly concur with that recommendation as well. I've seen these two be highly competent and very responsible in their work.
I agree.
You agree? Someone like to make a motion as stated in the recommendation box?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Bill Simpson to place 2 and Miriam Walker to place 4 on the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 2-year term.
I second.
All right. Casey beat you on the second. Nice try. We have a motion and a second. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving Bill Simpson and Marion Walker to the positions 2 and 4 on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the 2-year term. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed say no. And the motion carries as stated. Item number 6, consideration and possible action on a variance request for gravel in lieu of asphalt or concrete for the parking lot of the Montgomery Grove located at 22016 Eva Street.
Mayor and council, you have the information that I provided to you in the packet. We have Ms. Lieu, our city engineer here, as well as the applicants, Mr. Josh Cheatham and Mike Anderson, for the Montgomery Grove here. If you have any questions that you'd like to speak to them about.
So, as Dave mentioned, this is a variance request for a gravel parking lot at the Montgomery Grove Food Park, which is the former Heritage House location. Included in your packet is their variance request application. This was taken to P&Z last week, P&Z recommended approval of the variance and recommended the variance. Our recommendation is also in here, so a little bit of backstory on this. We've been discussing this with the developer on the staff side for quite some time. And during that time, we have not received any kind of site plans or any engineering drawings for the parking lot or road proposed. Included in your packet on page 36 are a couple of different site plans showing different options for the gravel parking lot. Our hesitation and the reason that we are ultimately offering no objections as long as we receive engineering site plans is there's some inconsistency in what we've been seeing as far as location of the gravel site, of the gravel parking lot, location of the handicap parking spaces, which are required to be concrete for ADA requirements. And so in light of those inconsistencies, we offer no objection as long as we do receive engineering plans for the parking lot. And then we would also ask that a certificate of occupancy not be issued until the plans are approved and construction is completed for the plans.
Is there a particular timeline on that for the plan after the fact?
So whenever we receive plans, we have a 2-week turnaround as far as our review, and from there it's just a matter of iterations.
On page 40 is a flow chart. I don't believe I've seen that, but it goes through the entire process of setting up a business. Is that something that's given to prospective business people,
Yes, that's a page out of the development handbook.
but is it given to them?
Yes. This is also available on the city's website.
The variance, would it include, it would still make them do the concrete for the handicap parking, correct?
That's correct.
And then, I guess looking at the pictures, it looks like they already did something.
As far as what's already been done, I'll let Mr. Cheatham speak to that a little bit more.
I'm Josh Cheatham. I'm the owner of Montgomery, my partner Mike Anderson's here as well. Yes, we improved the asphalt buildings that were there on site. We were led to believe that was okay by the city and moved forward with that back in it was late February, early March.
Now, to get into it, is it asphalt
Correct.
there? And then as I come into the parking area, is all of that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
From the street that has
Yeah,
been used
there's a-
for years?
yes, there's asphalt curb cut that's been in place for years. There's gravel buildings have been used at that place going back, I think almost 50 years. The heritage house dates back to the early 80s.
Is there one handicap spot? Or do you have to have two, or do you know?
It's in the picture.
Yeah, we have some architectural and engineered parking lot plans that's in there, so we have provided some engineered drawings that indicate the handicap parking spots.
Last one?
And also have a note from our engineer that we far exceed the parking space requirements of the city ordinance.
So I see to Carol's comment of which picture is the handicap. There's one with the handicap spots, but then there's 3 without. 2, 3, yeah.
So on page 36, I think I can clarify that. On page 36, this was submitted with the building permit application that showed the ADA spots on what they would call an accessible route, which is kind of the closest path to the door of the restaurant. The parking plan that was submitted just before this went to P&Z relocated those spaces. And so again, that's kind of to Catherine's point, what we're asking for is clarity on exactly what the plan is and showing where the accessible route is gonna be.
And I'd also like to point out, a few years back, a variance came to you for this property regarding a true grid system.
No, that's incorrect. It wasn't for this property.
Okay, excuse me.
Right, but I had to reread all of that because I remembered that, but it was at the other location. Is that right?
Right.
That's right, I missed
Yeah, it's okay. I wanted to verify that also. That's not at this property.
No, that was
No.
a property further up.
Further up.
Okay. All right.
So what's page 39?
Page 39 was the kind of the most recent, layout that we had received from Mr. Cheatham. While this was prepared by an engineer's office, you'll notice that it's not signed and sealed because the engineer is not, that's, again, kind of been one of the things that's kind of been missing is, about half this property is in the 100-year floodplain. And that's kind of our primary concern. We tell the county, we tell the federal government that we abide by the floodplain regulations. And that's been, one of the most, I guess, prominent concerns of ours is, just ensuring, you can tell that they've, taken a lot of the material out, the old material out. It's just for an engineer to seal that and say, I'm comfortable certifying that there are no downstream impacts.
Right.
We are working with their engineer to determine exactly what we need to be able to, again, to quantify that at a level where their engineer would feel comfortable signing and sealing. What this drawing does is really just illustrate that based on the size of the parking lot and the size of the restaurant, that there would be enough parking to meet the city ordinance.
Oh,
This
okay.
isn't necessarily an engineered drawing that shows and certifies that there's no impact, downstream. This is one of the Town Creek tributaries of the flooding and issues that we see on Down Creek or on Town Creek that are downstream of this. I mean, the way that, that watersheds work, you don't see where all the problems are.
Right.
But ensuring that we, see that and are comfortable on the engineering side to make sure that again, the amount of material that was taken out is more than or equal to the amount of material that went back. That's, kind of the goal of ours for meeting their engineering drawings.
How much is this piece of property in the 100-year floodplain, Dave?
There is let me see if there's a map there.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No, I didn't have the map in there. It was in the P&Z packet. Again, it's roughly half. The 100-year floodplain is about halfway through the parking lot on a 45-degree angle.
And the city has approved similar variances 3 times.
Right, just in, over the years, it's, been more than 3, but certainly in,
At least 3.
recent past, it's
Yeah.
been about 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Cheatham, are you okay with knowing what the city's asking from you now, Mr. Anderson? Or
Yeah, I
you-
think we're clear. It's not something that was clear from the start, but it's
Right.
something we're kind of learning how to.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would like to approve this, but my motion has to say something about you've got to turn in some engineering drawings. Well, I want to make sure that you understand what the city's asking you, because I sure don't. So I don't want to make the motion and you not understand what the city's asking. So
Well, I guess is that contingent on the variance passing? Council suggesting?
So, yes,
that's the way that it's presented to me.
we need engineered drawings showing that the concrete.
But when I make the motion, it's however I make the motion is going to go. But it's been presented to me that I need to make the motion that way. Ask for engineering drawings.
And to be clear, what we're looking for on those plans is a set of signed and sealed plans that show where the gravel is going to be, where essentially the parking layout that's submitted to you, but signed and sealed, this material is going to be used, and it also verifies no downstream impact, which is what Dave was talking about. That's really an important part of this, is verifying no adverse impact downstream.
Which is the last drawing of the packet
Correct.
by L squared.
Right, and this is just the standard development process that we require for all developments that come through the city, big and small, is to submit engineered signed and sealed drawings to us for review and approval.
I guess my kind of issue or concern, we met with, city officials back in January, and we're told that, we were grandfathered in to keep this material, to keep this type of parking lot, which is why we went forward with that expense and approved it on it. It's unfortunate that now we're being asked after the fact to spend, several thousand more dollars on something that we didn't think we had to do from the start. And, it's been gravel there for, 50 years.
Right.
And, there's, I stopped counting 20 different businesses around the city that have some type of gravel or, asphalt in the parking lot.
I'll add that, that I would agree that there's been confusion on this, particular project for some reason since we started talking with them. And again, so we started talking, our first email was January 14th, had a link to the handbook. Let me know if you have any questions. In the time that we've been talking about the Montgomery Grove, the city has moved through right at $150 million worth of development and building permits, but this is the one that sticks out as somehow information's not being conveyed. When we met with them initially, they said, we'd like to put a food truck on this property. Do we need to do anything? Do we need to pave this parking lot to put a food truck on the property? No, you don't. But what you need to do is have, if you're going to redevelop the property, there's a process, and that's what, we'd like you to follow. And again, there's been, just a series of miscommunications. I'm not sure where the disconnect has been, to be candid. But it's there, we're working through it. Our city engineer has spoken with their engineer. They believe that they're on the same page. I think that their engineer spoke with Josh this morning. If it wasn't this morning, it was yesterday. So on what's needed. So we're, again, we're doing what we can on our end to ensure that they've got the clarity. I don't know why it's not been there, to be honest with you. Again, our recommendation is to approve it, just contingent on the engineering drawings coming in and being reviewed.
Right.
And I thought we made it crystal clear from the start that we were remodeling the Heritage House restaurant. This was never just going to be a food truck park. So that's been made clear from the beginning. We're simply remodeling the restaurant and having a food truck, so we can have indoor outdoor seating. So we're not building any new structures, we're not running utility lines, we're not putting any new structures.
Let me interject something that was posed to me that could be part of the disconnect that you're talking about, of that $150 million, some odd, whatever. You're talking about also corporate. You're not talking about mom and pop though, right? So here's my point. The people that come in that are franchises, they do that all the time. I have, since I've been on city council, seen a pattern. And I've been very vocal about it at city council. We have people go out of here with an impression, and we've talked about that before many times, publicly and privately, to engineers, to management, just as a whole. I just don't like people walking out of this place with an impression that evidently, because we're what, 7 or 8 months into this whole deal, and I sat in position 5, confounded that I came for what I believe to be an alcohol ordinance only. So long story short, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts because I don't think this is the right time necessarily. I think there seems to be a resolve, but in my mind, it's way late, but I hope it suffices to patch up feelings that obviously as I've shared conversations with Mr. Cheatham and Mr. Anderson, and again, this is not just as a mayor. This has been from the beginning. So I'm frustrated at it. I've been frustrated, and I'm afraid I'm still frustrated at it. But I do apologize to the extent possible on behalf of the city. And I'll just be very frank. We, as a city, aren't getting it done. Now, that's my view. And we need that fixed. Again, when these franchises come in, they don't need to be held by the hand. That's why I asked, is there somebody who's there like I did? I shook one of your hands, I don't remember whether it was Mike or whoever, and I caught you in March or something. And whoever it was I shook hands with was frustrated as can be. And they did not have a favorable opinion of the city, and that bothered me.
Well, I'd just like to add, it's been mentioned, tonight that we're not going to get a CO until we do these things. Well, we've already received a CO on one building, so how can we get a CO on one building but not on another?
So, if you don't mind, let me comment. I'm going to comment on both of these things that Dave and the mayor has spoken on. I've been in business my whole career, my whole life. I do business. That's what I do. One thing that I absolutely cannot stand is surprises. Right? You make a plan, you stick to a plan. This isn't the original plan. The original plan was a food truck park.
No, that's it.
I went back to the meetings to make sure, and it's still, even in this permit, this one that it says Montgomery Grove Food Truck Park. So that's where I'm like, I get it, there's confusion, and yes, maybe some things were mishandled, but surprises are not good for anyone. So there's some fault on both sides, and yes, we need to do a better job, but when we get surprised or when things just change, and it's like, well, it's mine, I'll do what I want. You can, but if you want things to move smoothly, you have to communicate the changes before you make them.
And I can speak on that, on surprises or changes. So, Mike Anderson, I think ultimately what this all falls under, we were looking at another piece of property. And at that point, it was going to be a food truck park.
Yes.
We were just going to convert an old house to a eating area, food truck park. This was almost 2 years ago. We sat down, we discussed. We sat down, the city members, talked about it, everything was fine. Some things fell through with that property. We moved to the new property because we'd already put an offer on that property years before and it didn't come, we didn't get it. So we put another offer on it and got it. Sat down with the same city officials, and this is where the confusion gets, is we were told that word, that phrase grandfather was used multiple times, not by us. We said, we brought a project, we said, we bought this, we want to reconstruct, redo the heritage house, make it look similar to what it's always looked like. We have a food truck out there for a while. It may even be there once the restaurant opens. Yep, don't worry about it. We talked about the parking lot. Oh, the material's already on the ground. That's grandfathered in. So what we were told originally. So that's where the confusion comes from, is originally we shook hands, talked about things. We were told nothing's going to be needed other than, if we want, when we were redoing the restaurant, we need to do plans like that. But we were told from day one when we moved to this property, it was an existing restaurant property, had an existing parking lot, everything would be grandfathered in. We shook hands, we walked away, and that's where the confusion, because then after that, it started going, well, I don't know why y'all are saying that, it was never said, and it was.
So,
Did you ever have anything written?
You know
Black and
what?
white?
I'm kicking myself because no, we do now record every conversation.
Well, I wasn't asking that, but to me, if you had something in writing that verified that,
And you know that's our stupid spot for not taking that, because we figured it would be a spot where, hey, we're all sitting here, we had an agreement, didn't think to get it in writing.
sometimes everybody's ear hears different things.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, the confusion. It was already, confusion tonight as well. That, this started as a food truck park with another property. That was done and tossed. This is a whole new project on a new piece of property that included a restaurant. So I think people keep referring, the true grid variance and all that. That was on a totally different property. This was a totally new project. It was not, a food truck park like the original project. That was 2 years ago. This project from the start was to remodel a heritage house business and have a food truck or two out there.
If I may, and again,
I apologize for getting my properties mixed up. That was a confusion on my part. I apologize for that. Looking at page 37 and 38 of your packet, you have two surveys that were completed on the property. On page 38, the survey is dated November 9th, 2021. That's close to the bottom in the center. On page 37, the survey was revised on June 8th of 2022. It was updated, and the difference that I'd like to point out is the difference in the amount of gravel, the gravel area that is out on the property. And now this is going to be similar to the Cornerstone Church variance that came to you last year, year before.
In the spring or something?
Correct. So in any circumstance, we would still request engineering plans and drawings for a parking lot expansion because of the impact on the floodplain, aside from all other reasons. We did review parking area plans for parking lot expansion on multiple other developments. The parking lot was expanded, but looking at this survey, it appears that the parking lot was expanded and we never saw engineering plans and specific plans. So ultimately what this is, we offer no objection to the variance. We just like to have the plans for the parking lot so that we can make sure that there's no adverse impact on the floodplain and to our legacy. And I understand there was some confusion, some miscommunication. This is where we're at today, and ultimately we recommend, or we offer no objection.
Can I ask a question? So about the material taken versus material put in. So the pictures is kind of what got me wondering what happened. So they were grandfathered in with gravel with a handshake, and then they went in and regraded and added asphalt millings. So I'm trying to understand. I mean, gravel is not asphalt.
Well, it was asphalt millings that were there, I mean, those terms are interchangeable.
Well, they weren't there though, because it looks like they were added. So in the picture on 3/20/2022, there was all this dirt work done, and it was all dirt. And then in the picture on 3/8/2022, it's all asphalt millings. So that means it
old
was.
material that had been there for years that we removed to clean it up, make it safer, make it cleaner, put new asphalt millings down.
Right, so you added material back, right?
Well, no, we removed the material and replaced it with new, removed the old replacement material.
Okay. Okay. So the asphalt was what was there?
Yes, there was asphalt millings and gravel that was there. The survey didn't accurately depict it because grass had grown up through a big portion of it. There's actually, the parking lot was bigger than what we did. If you go back and, scrape up a little bit of dirt, you can see the old asphalt that was there, asphalt millings.
On average, the old asphalt goes 12 to 15 feet further than what we've gone.
Council ready to make a motion?
You bet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Carol, did you want to make this motion? All right, hold on, let me get to it. So I think I understand what they want to do, and we need to make it contingent upon engineering drawings that our engineers approve, is that correct? Okay,
I'm sorry, Casey, I didn't hear you.
so I gotta phrase this correctly. I'll make a motion to approve the variance with the contingent of the owners submitting engineered drawings that are approved by our city engineers for gravel parking lot, for a gravel parking lot.
We have a motion by Casey. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second by Cheryl. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote.
And I just want to ask one more time, Mr. Cheatham, Mr. Anderson, you are aware of what the city engineers are asking for. You've spoke with them.
I've spoken with my engineer, so I'm comfortable with that. I'm clear with what they're asking.
And
Okay.
he understands?
So
He'll stamp them? That's what we're looking for, right?
So if he gets the plans,
That's a very expensive stamp, by the way.
Okay.
yes, it is. So if he gets it to them, they have 2 weeks. And if the plans are approved, then you're ready to go with your asphalt gravel.
Yes.
Yeah. Which the asphalt gravel's already there, right? I'm not, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Council ready for the question? All in favor of approving the variance and the recommendation as stated, say yes.
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 And all opposed, say no. And the motion carries 4-0 to approve the recommendation of the variance as stated for item number 4. Excuse me, item number 6.
I didn't want to.
Did we record that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Item number 7, presentation and acceptance of a feasibility study for the proposed food gardens of Old Montgomery development.
Mayor and Council, I'll just add that I have the wrong attachment to the packet, but we have the hard copy here that the engineer will review with.
So if you look at what I passed out before the meeting, this is going to be the feasibility study for the food gardens of Old Montgomery. And I'll just walk you through kind of the results of the feasibility study and what to expect.
Are they here tonight?
They are not.
Okay.
Did they get a copy of this?
They received a copy of this on Friday.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So starting on page 1, your executive summary, this is about 1.5 acre tract along 149, just across from Upper Street next to the Institute Drapery property, to give you some perspective of where we're looking. So starting from the beginning, this is estimated to be approximately $800,000 assessed valuation at full build out. This is based on what the developer has provided us. Looking at your tax rates that you just recently approved, you would be receiving an estimated annual tax rate of $2,200 from this property. I'm going to go on to page 2. Your property is currently partially zoned as R1 residential and partially zoned as B commercial. Because of the use of the property, we would require that it be zoned completely as B commercial. And then I also want to note that the tract is partially within the State Historic Preservation District, so that requires all plans to be approved by the Land Use Commission as well. Going on to page 3, what we looked at on the water side is where is the water line, and so there's an existing 12-inch water line located across from the property along 149. This is a new water line that was just installed as part of the downtown water line replacement project. We also looked at plant capacity, and so this is situated much further in the projections that are included in the packet, but the summary that you see on page 5 of the study shows our commitments both in gallons per day and in connection capacity. Currently, as it stands today, the city does have capacity to serve this development, but it is worth noting that as the developments that are in design and feasibility continue to build out, the city should be considering additional water plant capacity for the future. Going on to page 6 is we're starting to look at the sanitary sewer side. There is an existing 8-inch gravity line that goes right in front of the property that they would be able to tie into. That gravity line then runs to lift station 2, which as of today currently has capacity for this development. Just like on the water side, for both lift station 2 and your wastewater treatment plant capacity, there is again capacity to serve this development, but as the other developments that are in design and feasibility build out, a lot of which are single family, will build out incrementally. As those continue to build out, the city should consider expansion of fuel station 2 and wastewater treatment plant facilities. Going on to page 7, in the drainage section, everything will be private on site as far as drainage. The city does not intend to accept any on-site drainage. On paving and traffic, They are currently proposing TxDOT connections to FM 149, so they will be responsible for obtaining obtaining TxDOT approval. They are also proposing a crushed granite gravel in their site plan, which is included later on in the packet, and so they would need a variance for their proposed surface. Bringing me into the zoning and variances section, zoning is, as I mentioned earlier, they need to rezone to be entirely commercial, and noting that they are within the historic preservation district as well. Page 8 of the study, we listed 3 variances that we noted based on their site plan that they would need to obtain. The first is a building setback of no less than 35 feet. They're currently proposing a 15-foot building line instead of 35. The second one is, as I mentioned, they're currently proposing a crushed granite gravel, and they would be, and the ordinance requires asphalt or concrete, so it'd be another variance. And then the third variance would be vegetative setback. The ordinance would require a 25-foot vegetative setback, and they're currently proposing a 10-foot setback.
That is between this piece of property and the property
Behind them, right?
behind it. Is that correct?
Since the vegetative setback is commercial against residential.
Right, and beside them,
The side
On
one is
149.
in-stitches drapery, which is commercial.
I'm sorry, is what?
In-stitches drapery is to the south.
Right, but the other
To the
end,
north.
To the
the
north,
other
I
end.
believe is residential,
Yeah.
so they would need a 25-foot setback there as well, and they're currently proposing 10.
Huh.
As far as development costs, to fund the rest of their escrow agreement, we are estimating an additional $5,000 that covers plan review fees, coordination with the developer, and staff time as well. They would be responsible for water and wastewater impact fees. Water impact fees would be $3,001 based on the impact fee table in your ordinance, and wastewater impact fees, would be $6,711 for a total development cost of $14,712. And then going on beyond the last page, we have our exhibit showing where the utilities are in relation to tract and road properties. We've also included the site plan that they included in their application, as well as the projections that we update with each development that comes in, each feasibility study that's performed. We also update the current connections based on your beacon system for public works.
Okay, this is, we know this is a feasibility study and that we don't need to get into a lot of technical details. We're just approving the feasibility study. With that said, when I heard from Dave, or by way of Dave, that he had been talking to this prospective owner, I was excited enough to at least call. Out of that call that lasted over an hour, I was wanting to hear more. And so I asked a couple of planning and zoning people to join us in this, and it's coming across exactly as what they stated. So I like that consistency. Here's what we're looking for, and that's what I'm seeing here. With that said, you mentioned the roundabout. At some point, this is an owner who may help with that. Is that your understanding as well? Because that's what we heard at first.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I meant to mention that as I was going through the report. This is, their proposed tie-in is tying right into what the city has proposed for roundabout at the intersection of 149 and Clever. So currently as it stands, if this property were to develop, that driveway connection would connect right into 149, and then when that roundabout is developed, they've already got it accounted for on their site plan, so they would be willing to work with the city for.
So I just want to publicly state that that's the course that I set from the beginning, that when a business model comes to our city, they are striving to work with planning and zoning. They're striving to work with the downtown revitalization. They're striving to work with the city. And that's just what I've seen. I just wanted to point that out, that's what we're looking for. And of course, the parking spaces are an extra blessing. But he did harp on the idea of wanting to be able to have it beautiful. And again, I like that. And so that's the reason for the backside variance. And I know it seems slim, but he's trying to create an atmosphere there that, to be honest with you, really looks like what I see, the revitalization plan, shrubbery and the things to come. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that this is, in my mind, a worthy venture. And if the engineers don't see a problem with that, and of course, we were all over the tech dot, and I'm sure you were as well, the management and engineers, to make sure that that type of a frontage road clearance was not going to be a problem, and y'all don't see a problem with that.
I
10
personally
feet.
don't, but they'll be responsible for getting text out approval.
Absolutely.
This roundabout is not anytime soon, so what you're saying is this driveway here would tie in right across from Clipper?
Correct. Until the roundabout is built, the tie-in will be right across from Clever. But as you mentioned, the roundabout is still very early discussion.
And are these entrance and exits, or do you know?
He said one way in, one way out.
I believe that was the intention, was one way in, one way out, but I do not know which end would be. in
Right.
Sweden.
It's
I
not
believe
on
it
any
was the
plans.
Clipper side in and the other side out, if I remember correctly.
So where on, I don't know, down here it says sheet number 1.01. Where is the street? Is it Buffalo Springs?
Yeah, it's over here.
Is it up
Yeah, so this
higher
is,
here?
This is Jim's parking lot,
Right.
and this is that
right.
loop down, so it's over here.
Right, so
So
Berkeley
it's-
Drive is further north.
Oh, Berkeley Drive, that's right.
Berkeley is further north off of the page, so as Casey was mentioning, what you see in the corner of that image is the corner of Jim's parking lot.
Right.
And then as you go further north, you would hit Berkeley Drive.
A question about the roundabout. Is that something the TxDOT is planning? Are
Something that
they,
they're aware of. As of right now, I have not seen plans for 149 improvements in quite some time. But it's something that they are aware of, but I don't have a timeline for when they would be.
now when you say they're aware of, is this something that TxDOT plans on implementing, or the city?
My understanding is that they're willing to have a partnership with the city, but we haven't discussed details of any kind of payment, or we have not gotten into details.
Probably a ways off from that, wouldn't you think?
Right.
Oh, yeah,
I believe it's
most definitely. It's not anytime.
I'm pretty sure my grandchildren may see it.
Right. So the feasibility study is, it's not at the point to look at the drainage, because there is a large drainage that runs through there.
Correct, that's not usually the intention of the feasibility study. We look at drainage and we get into the review.
Okay.
But preliminary discussions that I've seen are favorable to cleaning up that behind there, because that was a problem next to the adjacent property. It just seems that everything, there's a great value from this to encourage not only the drainage, but the cleanup of the entire area, I guess is what I'm saying, to make it look a whole lot better there.
You want to know if this property is not in the 100-year floodplain.
What's that? I'm sorry.
This property is not located
It's not.
within the floodplain.
It's not located in the floodplain?
Correct. This property is not located within the floodplain.
Really?
Well, it floods.
It
It
floods.
does, it does, that's what made
It
me
may
wonder,
not
'cause
be
that
in the
creek
plain,
was
but
a
it
bunch of water.
floods.
Yeah.
I have never seen Heritage House flood,
Never.
but I have seen that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Comes straight down from the Clover's
That
house.
is
Yeah.
odd.
It's part of the clean out that I've been talking to people about, and mentioned to the engineers as well, that trying to locate, because all along 149, I've got people saying, I go behind there myself when it starts flooding on those properties there on the, what would that be, the west side especially? And so it's all, there's something there that may, and it may be as easy as cleaning up, and that's why I want to look into it.
So my other question is, I know our ordinance is 35 feet for the grid line off of 149. Is TxDOT, because it looks like they're talking about, the way it is, 15 feet where you're gonna have people next to 149. Is that an issue?
There's no walkway proposed there.
No, but they're sitting there eating next to a highway.
I don't know about textiles regulations for being next to a highway. What I can say is that textiles didn't have an issue downtown with people being next to 149. The issues on my perspective are that their proposed canopies are over what they're already proposing as a reduced building line.
The drawings reflect his concern of that as well. You see the little green circles. What he's envisioning is a row of hedges, which I guess is a bit of not only beautification, but an extra layer of protection maybe, and that's what those green circles are.
But the study itself just pertains to sewer and water for the
It
most part.
mostly looks at sewer, water. We do look at drainage. We mostly know that any kind of drainage or detention would be private. And we look at the traffic moving their entrance onto 149 and the roundabout. And we also look at the financial impact for the city as far as tax revenue and the impact that we see in the city.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Council ready to make a motion? Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to authorize the city engineer to prepare a feasibility study for the proposed food truck park.
Where are you at?
Wait a minute.
Just to accept this.
Just to accept. Item 7.
Am I on the wrong one? Oh, yeah, you're right, I am on the wrong one.
One more down.
One more.
No, it's not in there, that's why. Maybe it's in twice.
On your screen.
On our,
No. That's why she did it in the packet.
that's why she put it in the packet. Our agenda packet says summer wind development.
That'll be the next
That's the
item.
Yeah.
next one. We're discussing number 7, the
Yeah.
feasibility study
Right.
for the food gardens of Montgomery.
You'll notice I put the wrong attachment in there. I had the
I don't-
Montgomery Grove attachment in there twice, but.
I don't have it at all.
Right.
None of
You
the
don't have number 7?
food gardens, no. I don't have number 7 at all.
Page 43.
Yeah, that was what I was reading, that's why I'm trying to understand.
So
It's
does yours say
recommendation, accept the feasibility study as presented for item 7. It's really, all we
I
need
have
to do
no
is,
item 7.
You have no item 7?
all we need to do is accept the feasibility study as presented for item 7. Would that solve it?
Yeah.
That'll work for me.
I just kind of.
I'm just
We're missing an agenda page.
I guess I just got confused with the two in a row.
Yeah.
Did you have number 6, Carol?
Uh-huh.
Then it goes straight to 8?
It goes straight to 8.
I have 7.
Y'all got
Anyways,
7?
We have 7.
I have 7.
so we want to accept it, all right.
All I have that says item 7 is that chart.
Huh.
And I thought that
That was the last.
was item 7. Now, item 6 was the chart.
All right, let's restate the motion for.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the feasibility study as presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Pat. Motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving the feasibility study as presented for item 7, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. And the motion carries as stated for item 7. Item number 8, presentation and acceptance of the feasibility study for the proposed summer wind development.
Okay, this is what I was looking
All right, this is the other feasibility study that we were authorized to approve. So some of the information is going to be similar as far as your capacities at your water plant and your wastewater treatment plant. Whenever we did both these feasibility studies at the same time, we looked at your water and wastewater plant capacities as both developments were happening. So those capacities will stay the same as the previous report I just walked you through. But going we had a presentation from the developer, to council. This property is located along Lone Star Parkway, just east of Buffalo Springs Drive. This is the property that is currently located in Lieu 179. This council authorized creation a couple of years ago. So what they are proposing is 211 single-family lots for in-city service. The MUD will not be providing water and sewer service. They would be receiving city service. So walking you through the development, kind of like I did last time, starting on page 3 of the study, which is page 57 of your report. They are looking at approximately $82,875,000 of assessed valuation at full build out. Based on your tax rates, that would be $331,500 in annual tax revenue for the city, again, at full build out. This property is currently zoned as planned development. It is part of the Lieu development agreement, and so its formal zone is PDD. Moving on to page 5, they, as I mentioned, if the development falls within MUD 179, they would be receiving water service from the city. And as I mentioned in the previous development, we currently have capacity to serve this development today as they continue to build out. But as this development and others in the city build out further, the city should consider additional water plant capacity for this development and for the entire city.
With it, do you have a approximate timeline for that to be in motion next couple of years for another
So
water?
you currently have it in your budget for design of a water plant expansion
Okay.
project and a wastewater treatment plant expansion. We'll put the engineering fees in the budget.
So that could potentially be to full fruition within a couple of years at about the time this particular gets into phase 1. And so it all kind of works out that way, right?
Correct. We're not expecting you to have capacity issues until around 2024. On the timeline that we're looking at, we would have a water plant.
Okay.
We would have sufficient water plant capacity at that time.
But we're not talking about more wells, right? The wells we have are sufficient.
You have sufficient well capacity as a storage capacity, and then looking at the west side of the city, we start looking into pressure issues. As far as providing water to this tract, there's a 12-inch water line along Lone Star Parkway, and then there's an 8-inch water line that stubs out going across Lone Star Parkway directly in front of this tract that they can tie it into. So they would not need to do the crossing underneath Lone Star Parkway. On the sanitary sewer collection side, there are a couple of options on this one. We included in this study our preferred option. And so as y'all are aware, this property has a significant fall from the Lone Star Parkway side, the south side, going north towards the channels. With that, that allows for gravity sanitary sewer, and it eliminates the need for a lift station. We did some preliminary calculations, and they would be able to connect their gravity sanitary sewer system into the Buffalo Crossing gravity line. There's an 8-inch sanitary line that stubs out at the end of the road that they could tie into, and there should be sufficient elevation to make that meet. We are recommending that the developer, of course, verify that, but that's our proposed method for receiving sanitary sewer service. It would then flow from there into lift station 10, which we have discussed with the Maybury property would need to be upsized. Now, what we included in your feasibility study is a cost estimate, the same cost estimate that was provided to the Maybury feasibility study. There is an opportunity for cost sharing between this developer and the Pulte Group. That would need to be worked out between the two developers, but bringing it to the proposed 550 gallons per minute that we talked about with the Maybury tract would be sufficient to also serve this property. Again, we need to look at proper scoping and exactly what improvements would need to be done.
So the main sewer line that we're tying into, it has capacity to handle both?
It does. So if you look at page 64 of your packet, It'll be this utility exhibit. And we prepared showing where that tie-in would be. And so the tie-in along Peel Point Drive is the 8-inch sanitary sewer, and it does have capacity for both Buffalo Crossing development and this summer attractive tie into it. I do want to take a minute to go back to water. There is also a water line, an 8-inch water line along Peel Point Drive that we recommend that they tie into as well to provide a loop through the development for their water access. It's just good practice to have water lines as much as possible. We are also recommending that they include a water stub to the property to the west to allow for a potential loop through what we refer to as the J. Allen Kent property when that property develops. Going back to the study, so like I said, sanitary sewer, they would need to upsize lift station 10, and again, there's an opportunity for cost sharing with the Pulte group on that. Going forward into drainage, the on-site storm sewer system will be dedicated to the public as far as the storm sewer line, manholes, inlets, etc. Any detention that they would need to do would remain private. This is standard across the city, what we've done in other developments as well. They would need to perform a drainage study following all applicable Montgomery County drainage criteria standards and city code ordinances to show no impact downstream. As you are aware, this backs up to the canals, and so we would be reviewing drainage analysis to make sure that there is no impact outside of the property boundary onto the canals. As far as paving and traffic, they are currently proposing one entrance and one exit, or excuse me, one point of access onto Lone Star Parkway. They would be responsible for obtaining Montgomery County approvals for this access, as Lone Star Parkway is a Montgomery County owned road. The interior roads to the development would be proposed to be public and would be accepted by the city after construction. One thing we are recommending on traffic is that they provide a stub street to the J. Allen Kent property along with that water line, so that when the J. Allen Kent property develops, there's a potential second access or potential access onto Buffalo Springs to alleviate some of the pressure.
Before I forget it, get back to what you just said. What do we typically do or look for regarding public or private streets? I have, citizens that set up, I think I ran it by day before, as private, and now they're wanting to see if the city would take it public. Is there some standard by which we say this should be public and something else is private or allowed to be, or how's that work?
What we look for in a public street is that it's designed, first and foremost, designed to city's standards. And then during construction, we inspect the construction and check everything from rebar spacing to their concrete mixture contents. We receive and review their lab testing results. And then once the streets are finished, we will flood the streets, as we have done in Hill of Temporary, you are familiar with. And then we check from 2 hours after the streets are flooded, 24 hours after, and 48 hours after to check for ponding. This is a good way for us to check grading and slopes to make sure that they're functioning as they should. When it comes to private streets, we typically do not inspect private streets because they're not going to be taken over by the city. We are not normally sent testing reports. In the past, we have once or twice been told, why are you looking at my streets? The city's not accepting it. So when the streets are going to be designated private, we do not do that.
So that, if I'm hearing right, so if someone goes to the private route and then later on they want the city to take it public, it's an idea that we did not approve the public, so it's going to be difficult to do that, right?
There's a way to do it, it's just, you've got to kind of go backwards on all of the, you've got to still meet the same kind of criteria, you just got to prove it after the fact.
After the fact.
It's just hard. One of the most common reasons that you would see a private street is if it's going to be like Waterstone is in a gated neighborhood. It's a very clear distinction some of the ones that are private, like in Lake Creek Village, that's very hard to kind of see and understand why, well, anyone can drive on them, but yet they're still, private streets, and again, just the decisions, that's really not prohibited by the city, but that's made, by the developer on, whether or not he's going to do a public or private street.
Okay, well, you were talking specifically about that group that wants to, okay, go ahead.
Looking at the total development costs for this development, since they are located in the development area, the PDD, they are not subject to impact fees. Their tap fees would be assessed at a cost plus 200% for each tap connection. The additional escrow amount that we would be requesting is $33,000, and this covers engineering fees, including plan review fees, coordination, inspection, construction administration, all of the costs associated with the development for the engineering side, as well as legal and administrative costs. The other cost that we have included in here is the lift station number 10 improvements for $379,000. I do want to note this is the cost for the full improvements project for the lift station. This is not, it's not broken out in a pro rata between Pulte and Summer Wind Development. This would be the total cost of the improvements. And again, like as I've mentioned, there is opportunity for cost sharing between the two developers.
On the basis that there's two basically simultaneous entities that are wanting to draw from the same water source.
Correct. So both entities would trigger an expansion of lift station 10. If one doesn't go, the lift station still has to be expanded, so they are both contributing to the need for expansion, so they could both share the cost of the expansion. And again, as I mentioned, the city would be looking at a $82,875,000 assessed valuation. Property taxes.
Anything else? Council have any questions?
And they did receive this report.
They did. They also received the study on Friday.
Any further questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the feasibility study as presented.
Motion by Casey, do I have a second?
A second.
Is that Pat?
Yes.
We have a second by Pat. This motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving accepting the feasibility study for item 8 as stated, say yes.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries as stated for item 8. Item number 9, consideration and possible action on approval of a change order number 1 to the water plant number 3 generator addition contract.
As you're all aware, water plant number 3, we were under construction for the addition of a generator. This is part of the General Land Office grant, the GLO project. As the contractor was installing the conduit, they found that what we thought was existing conduit that could be utilized did not actually exist. This was shown on your 2013 water plant number 3 improvement plans, and when the contractor got into the field, they found that conduit was not there. And so what this change order is for is the amount of $19,309.10. That's an increase of 5.24%, and it is simply to add the conduit into the contract. This amount is still covered under your GLO grant, and it's not any additional out of the city funds.
And that's not uncommon to have 2013 plans cause that.
Correct.
Lack of
It's not
knowledge.
uncommon, and so when this generator was in design, that was what was used, what we believe to be Asphalt, for the conduit at least. And so it's not uncommon to have some field adjustments.
Okay.
Just one question. Who gave us the 2013 plan saying the conduit was there?
The 2013 plans were completed by Kevin Carter, and this design was completed by Quiddy, which is Carter under everything.
So they said it was there and didn't need one, and then they got there and said, oh no, we need to dig a hole.
Well, the contractor found it, but they're the project manager, Quick is still the project manager on it, so.
But he was of the understanding that that conduit existed,
Based on what?
based on the 2013 plans that showed that the conduit was to be installed.
But you said they're the same company,
No.
under a new name, right? So it's their plan, right?
And again, so it's not uncommon for changes like this to come up.
But $19,000? I guess I wasn't paying attention.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand,
Who-
their original plan was, yep, there's a conduit there, we're good to go, because they did their research or whatever, it's their plan, then they changed the name of the company and they come back and said, no, our plan was wrong, you have to put the bill. Is that what I'm getting? Because that's what it seems like.
So the amount of money, so Quiddity wouldn't get any of the $19,000 change order, the contractor and the field action.
Oh, I totally understand that, but it wasn't our mistake. We paid for them to give us a plan that was right, right?
In terms of the plans that were approved to be built, and then when they went back, so after, as you know, after you build a project, you come back and you say, okay, now here's the as-built. And either through the inspection process back in 2013, they thought they verified, they thought they counted the conduit, for whatever reason, they missed it. It wasn't there.
Okay.
And you can't, you have to have it.
Oh, yeah, we got it.
Correct. This is, the conduit is to place the wiring and
Right.
to wire the generator.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the change order number 1 as presented.
Motion by Casey. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Pat. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving change order number 1 as presented, say yes.
Yes?
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries to approve item number 9. Item number 10, consideration possible action on approval of a service agreement for building plan review and inspection services between the City of Montgomery and Rick Hannah, CDO.
Mayor and council, as you see in your packet, Rick, if you'd like to know Rick, if you've not, he is here.
He stepped out.
He's in the building. So Rick has done the majority of our plan reviews and inspections since 2004. As most small cities do, there was not ever an agreement in place, and so what this action is to put an agreement in place that just gives the certainty to both parties, both the city and to Rick on moving forward. Again, we are a growing city, as I put in the packet. There's the question of you bring the plan review and inspection process in-house and have a building official in-house. That's certainly a conversation to have. So I thought in the past, yes, we're absolutely there. I don't know that I would answer that the same way. I think the services that we get are certainly some of the best services that we're going to find for a third-party plan reviewer and inspector. But again, this is not asking for a change in any way. This is just to formalize what the city has been doing since 2004. It's just Rick has been gracious enough to do it without any agreement at all. Rick is here. You got a sheet that he handed out just before the meeting that just kind of details out again, some of his staff that he's got. This is, just Rick, doing things as his, company's grown, his staff has grown, and it just kind of outlines, some of the folks that, and some of the time that they spend on working on the city's behalf.
So this is only clarifying or making it where he has an agreement with the city of what he's been doing.
Right, there's
Nothing-
nothing new, there's no new services, there's no services being taken away. There's a 90-day termination clause in there, frankly, that's, less time than a city would need to, if we were gonna, do something different, we probably need more than 90 days to iron that out. So there's nothing in the contract that gives me pause, the attorneys have reviewed it, and Rick has been gracious enough to work on a few points in it, so again, there's nothing changing about the relationship. This just formalizes exactly what responsibilities on the city side and on his side are.
So in number 4, independent contractor, that Rick may employ or he can be employed by other companies and municipalities, and he's doing that as of right now, right?
That's right. We are not his only client.
Okay.
He does work for other companies and for other cities.
And number 5, I only became aware of this recent, that the city of Montgomery is using his software for the permits and everything, is that correct?
That's
For
right.
permits and all the other, or is it just a permit software?
Just for the building permits, they maintain a license for it. It's, we would get, just like say like on our GIS stuff, if we ever moved, so the data is ours, the software is theirs. So.
I think given the expertise of Mr. Hannah, his certifications, his service and recent upgrades and updates of his staff, along with the training that he's provided for our people, speaks to his commitment to be able to service a city that's in hypergrowth, and I feel good about that.
On the amendment A, number C says that the contractor agrees to provide services to the city of Montgomery, and number C says report to building official, which we do not have. We have a director of planning and development, I think, or other city staff as assigned. I'm not real crazy about that other city staff.
So your city administrator is, by code, is your building official in absence of another one. So it's essentially at the discretion of the city administrator, whether they report directly to the city administrator or whether they, city, with the stuff that we have going on, they should be delegating out.
So what makes the city administrator the building official?
I couldn't cite the exact section of the code, but they're, in the absence of having one, that's, it's sort of like your sign official is your city administrator, unless the city administrator says you're now delegated the duties of the sign official. It was like before we hired a code enforcement officer, the city administrator was the code enforcement officer. And he delegated the duties of that, to the police department. Is that clarify or just confuse more?
Okay.
I just have one question for legal. As Rick is independent contractor, and before we did not have a service agreement, so he, as an independent contractor, he carries his own liability insurance and all of those other insurances that he has to carry to do his job. With a service agreement, how much of that now do we share, liability-wise?
It's actually much better.
Okay.
I mean, without any kind of agreement, he could have argued that he was a direct employee of the city.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you, Rick. I worked with you for all those years as city secretary, and I would like to make the motion to approve the service agreement as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Carol, second by Casey. Motion that's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item number 10, the service agreement as presented, Mr. Hannah, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. And the motion carries for item number 10 as presented unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hannah. Item number 11, consideration and possible action on an ordinance by the City of Montgomery, Texas, denying Entrants Texas Incorporated statement of intent and application for authority to change rates filed on July 1, 2022, finding that the meeting complies with the Open Meetings Act, making other findings and provisions related to the subject, and declaring an effective date.
Mayor and council, this is what we've been waiting on all summer for Entergy. So what we've done, as you see in the memo there, what we've done so far, we have suspended the effective date of the rate increase. We've denied a distribution cost recovery factor. And what we're doing tonight is the formal denial of the rate. And what this does is then Entergy is able to go directly to the PUC or the Public Utility Commission and argue their case for what they think the rate should be. The Coalition of Cities then has a team of experts on their side, which again, we are a part of, that is able to analyze the data and say, well, we believe it should be this, that's arbitrated by the PUC. Happy to answer any questions or defer to Alan.
And then we take the results like they're allowed, right?
That's,
But everybody on that list, Alan, is doing this probably.
That's right. Yeah, and.
Long list.
it is.
But the long list probably won't matter in the end, but you got to try, right?
We're certainly able, with those cities, we're able to have better access to the experts that we would need to make a good case for it, and if we were trying to do that ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any further questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance as presented.
Motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Pat. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item number 11 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion carries as stated for item number 11. Executive session, adjourned into closed executive session is authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under this heading or for any items listed above in an executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications in sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, 551.073, deliberation regarding gifts, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations of Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. It is 7:24. Hold on.
We don't have anything tonight unless you guys do.
Okay. We don't?
I don't.
Okay.
Carol?
So,
Oh, no.
all right. I thought we did. All right.
Oh.
So, no,
Nope.
nope.
Okay. Nope.
All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
So before we do that,
Okay. That's right, that's the question.
there is a council inquiry.
That's right.
Does anyone have anything?
If you don't, if I could just explain the flyer that you got there. At your seats, you guys see the neighbor insert that will be going out in the next bill. And one of the items that we had from a couple meetings ago is to bring back the veteran banner idea or the project idea. So what that QR code does, and I would love it if you all of the first ones to take the survey. If you scan that QR code, there's a 5-question online survey that what we're doing is getting input from the residents and businesses specifically on, we know that everyone would support veterans. What we're looking to do is to see or to gauge the interest on who would be willing to participate or at least signify that they would. So if you would take a moment to do that, we'll bring those results back, and again, it'll help us determine the extent of the program and help us kind of gauge some of the details.
So this is put out, made available to citizens by way of
They'll get that in their water bill. The water bills will go out, or, you ought to be getting those sometime the week after next. They start being printed next week. So,
Ask him to come back.
I do have a question about the garage sale thing that you have on this little flyer. So sale is only permitted 2 times a year.
under our city code, we have.
So who's keeping count?
That's a good question. Our code enforcement officer put that bit together. She's pretty detailed. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't have one all. So.
And so even on private property, you can only display it one. I don't plan on having a garage sale, but I considered it a little,
I don't know that
a little hinky.
I don't know that that would be something that we would, go out for an individual homeowner that had 3. But I think that what that is, mainly designed to do is to somehow not have a perpetual garage sale that just never seems to end. And so,
Not going to be me, but still
I
a
don't
little
know of
hinky.
anyone that's ever been fined or cited for that.
Any others? Okay, now I entertain a motion to dismiss.
I make a
And
motion
Cheryl
to
will make
adjourn.
that motion. And do I have a second? I take a second by Carol. All in favor of dismissing, say aye.
Aye.
See, I threw you a curveball.
What happened to your?
I know, I just changed. All right, it says 7:27 and we are adjourned.